Hi, my name is Christina Jones, and I'm a graduate student in the Brian Lamb School of Communication at Purdue University, who worked with Dr. Mohan Dutta in a graduate seminar on a Voices of Hunger photo exhibit. We sent members of the marginalized, food insecure community home with cameras who documented their lived experiences with hunger, and then we brought them together with different stakeholders in the community to create a dialogue regarding hunger in this area. What you're about to see is that dialogue as it occurs.
So when we started this project, the idea behind it was very simple. Clearly, we have been seeing how hunger has become one of the major issues in US and even in Indiana. And one of the elements of hunger that we got into when we initially started this project was the idea that the number of food insecure that we see in the data surely doesn't match up with the number of people that are actually hungry because of the stigma and the shame that are attached with it. So we came up with this idea that we're going to apply the culture-centered approach with the notion that when you start listening to the voices of people in communities that have been marginalized, it disrupts that kind of silence, with the notion that these stories then start engaging us in the politics of change and figuring out how we can go about engaging policymakers, programs and interventions. So when we got started, what we did is we began with doing in-depth interviews with community members, and we did 18 of these in-depth interviews, and from those then we built group discussions where they started coming together, pulling in some of the data and brainstorming about solutions. Based on that, then we gave them cameras. We gave them about 10 cameras. They took the cameras, took pictures, brought them back, then sorted through them, and then started sharing stories built on those images. Then they took those back again, figuring out what are the gaps in the stories they had, and then took the cameras out, took additional pictures. And so this iteration happened again and again, and then they came up with sort of 4 subplots in a major plot. The major plot being that this could happen to anyone, and do not stigmatize us, we are not any different. And that then built into this idea that other people need to be aware of these options and also try to work at some of the stigma in terms of what it means to go to a pantry. And the second idea was the idea of logistics in terms of how they were treated at the pantry. So there were communication issues, but issues of transportation, like you needed to have gas money to get from one pantry to another. There were also issues of quality of food. So those were all the kinds of things that then got shared at a platform like today's, where we have the pantries as well as food finders in the same space as the food insecure.
But could you say something about photo voice as a method? How is this emerged, and what is the importance of this method into the projects like these?
So the importance of photo voice is in disrupting the silence, in the sense that we hear that images speak louder than words. And what you have here are aesthetic representations of their lived experiences as understood by people that are hungry. And with the idea being that the pictures tell a story that then start working away at some of the structural silences that we see. And also the other idea is a fairly logistic idea that food finders as well as the food insecure be able to use these pictures as exhibits for fundraising as well as for stimulus materials to engage with other food pantries as well as community organizations.
So one final question for someone who's new to this method, to CCA. What would you recommend in terms of replicating this model or this project in other contexts, for other health issues, or in other communities, as we heard today?
I think replicating, it really has to start with the idea of listening. And I couldn't stress that enough, that you sort of have to peel away at your own biases that you might have in place to really listen. And as you do that, what you see is that internally the desire of the community, whatever that community gets to be, to define itself and to define a particular political agenda, comes from within. So now the community here is talking about forming a coalition of the hungry that sort of will make decisions about hunger-related issues and sort of be in an advisory role to food finders. Now, this is something we could not have conceived from earlier on. So if there is replication, the replication is in the principle and ethic of openness, with the idea of dialoguing and then really bringing the margins in conversation with policy platforms. And I think what you saw happen today is precisely that, is that when policymakers come into spaces, it's not that they're always inherently bad people, but there are elements written into structures which prevent them from listening. And even when that happens, you hear them saying time and again, I learned so much. So one of the examples is some of the union pantries in town do not give out food to people that are not union members. So a community member who was an iron worker now goes back to this union pantry and is turned away. So today in this dialogue with food finders, information was shared both ways, where food finders then said that this is illegal. Any food pantry, they are state funded, they cannot turn away anyone that is hungry. And said to the community member then that you go to that pantry and ask for food and say that you have the right to it. And then that she would call the pantry up, follow up with them and let them know that she's not going to provide them the food supply if they keep doing this. So this is one example of that openness and what it leads to in terms of structural change.
Okay, thank you.
But to give you an idea of what we're faced with, you're asking for better nutrition. But just last week I spoke to a very generous organization who said to me, we would like to give you the cookies and potato chips that we don't eat out of our box at lunch. And here they are, I want them to give me money. But and they're telling me we want to give you cookies and potato chips.
Yeah, so you have to take it.
And so the thing is, you don't want to say we don't want your cookies and potato chips. We want your money, because people don't like to hear that.
Right.
So,
Right.
but it's just not easy to get the right foods. Because Frito-Lay is in Frankfurt, and they give us truckloads of Fritos.
That's the reason, that's right.
Yeah. But one thing that we have done recently is we trade those Fritos for other products.
Oh,
That's kind of a good
The
idea.
barter system.
Yeah.
So what can you get for Fritos?
We got some cereal.
Really?
You know the cereal that was at the mobile pantry in the
Yes.
in the plastic bags? We got that bulk cereal.
How could I persuade my church members to get involved in doing something like this?
You don't have a food pantry at your
No.
church, do you?
That would be a great, there aren't enough food pantries, so
Because I was
if
gonna
they
say.
had- that would be great. They could sponsor a backpack program if they wanted to collect money to sponsor the backpack program. They could be a partner with somebody else for a backpack program. Like sometimes we'll get one church that'll collect the money and another church that'll pack the bags.
Okay,
So
all right. But on the website, we can look
on
up.
the website, there's things like how to have a food drive.
Okay.
And one of
It
the
has
things,
ideas and different ways you could do it,
Okay.
different things to collect. Like if you wanted to collect just cereal for just the backpack program, or an item like that that we know would be used in that.
Okay. All right.
There's some good ideas like that.
and also we're trying to really encourage people to give us money instead of food so that we can buy the products that people want instead of having random, like blue cheese stuffed olives.
I could talk to my pastor just in case this would work. He's Upper Room Christian Fellowship. They have one of the real small pantries. That's when I sort stuff out to get my organic, and we can't use it to build our immune systems. I take a lot of what is left of there. I also take it to United Methodist Church in Battleground. But I just came from the National Day of Prayer. They have a Tippecanoe County Evangelical Ministers and Ministerial Association, long acronym. I don't know if there's a bunch of churches in there. You see, like the
CFRC?
Yeah, exactly. In other words, if you can band a bunch of churches together that could just, we'll do a fundraiser in our church, and put it all
Yeah,
together.
that would
Boy,
be
that
good.
would.
And once we have our pantry, then we'll need all of the churches to send volunteers because we'll try to staff it as many hours of the week as we can.
Are you going to publicize when you paint, erect shells and stuff?
Yeah.
So I have a question actually for you, Kate. In terms of having a conversation like this, what is the value of such a conversation with your clients for food finders?
There's a lot of value in this for me, and hearing your stories and knowing what you want. Like, for example, I'm a little ashamed about that corn because I'm the one that told the USDA that we would take an extra truckload because I thought, who doesn't like corn? We'll just give everybody lots and lots of corn. So that's really helpful for me to hear that. But for the most part, because I've gone to the mobile pantries and because I've gone out to the food pantries, I have talked with a lot of people that have similar situations, and so I think I'm aware of that. The challenge has been persuading those people who've had a food pantry for 20 years or more to change the way they're doing it in such a way that it better meets your needs. And we are aware that it's a problem and we are working on it, but change is slow. So, and you know what? We're a lot better off than Cass County or Clinton County. So, some of the other, they all have these networks. So if they want real-time information. So if you've gotten food from the Salvation Army, then you better not get food from Lum.
Oh.
And they're tracking people. So,
Oh, no.
yeah. So we're ahead of that a little bit. But back to Mohan's point, what I would like to try to arrange, and I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do this, but is an opportunity for you all to talk to those people who run the food pantries.
Oh, yeah, well, we could
And
be
then-
there
yeah.
when they come in to buy the food.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's a good
I would
idea.
love
That's a
to
good way
do
do it,
that.
yeah. So we'll try to work on some formalized method of doing that so that maybe if they hear it from you instead of from me, it'll
Right.
have more impact.
Right.
Katie, they have also discussed this idea of meeting at least once a month or twice a month to make this more systematic as a process. So there might be avenues there too in
Yeah.
terms of finding spaces for that conversation.
Yeah.
Over the last few minutes, you saw the dialogue and discussion that occurred as part of the Voices of Hunger Photo Voice exhibit. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like more information, please feel free to contact us.